Thank you to those who have joined us today for the third installment of Agenda Dad. As a recap of what the objective of this work is, it is to host a series of discussions and talks from experts in their fields. And we are looking to take the accumulated amount of information that comes through the recordings that we are sharing over our website, the chat, and any feedback that comes through our social media streams. And we're shaping that to inform our approach to the APPG on fatherhood. In this segment, we have been looking at the idea of mental health screening for fathers. So we heard initially from Mark Williams, who talked about mental health screening in the perinatal paternal phase. Say that 3 times. And then we heard from Mark Cobain, who about 2 weeks ago, who gave us a lot of insight into the physical health and longevity of fathers, and it raised a significant challenge in data capture. And today we are joined by Dan Flanagan of Dad La Soul. And for those of you who may have seen my latest LinkedIn post, I started off with the idea that for decades we have heard men don't talk about their personal challenges, or men don't seek support, or men don't look after their health. Men's social connections fall off of a map. So I highlight those areas because I have a feeling that Dan might be challenging some of those conventional wisdoms to some degree. But before we kick off in earnest, Dan, hello, how are you?
I'm really, really well, and I'm just got my fingers and my toes crossed that nothing goes wrong with the tech, as we've discussed.
Hey, Dan, even if it does, I think our personalities can manage all
Rock
of
it
this
out.
nonetheless. But tell everybody what you did this Friday night.
I, as part of Dad La Soul, we challenge our members and our community to be comfortable with getting uncomfortable. So we're very fortunate here. I live right by the sea. So we have a group of fellas that meet up on a Friday night, take our clothes off, not all of them, obviously, and we jump right in the sea. So rather than Friday night, must go down the pub, have a few beers to unwind, we get, I think there's 3 cohorts of men. We jump in the sea, then we go into a little horse box, which is converted into a beach sauna, sweat out all the toxins, then get back in the sea and do that 3 or 4 times. And then we sit around a fire and have a conversation. So traditionally, Friday night, must have a beer to get rid of this. What we do is get naked with strangers and scream at the sea.
Fantastic. What?
Highly recommend it.
A very different way of spending a Friday evening. I can only imagine what is going through Owen's mind at the moment. But in response to
when
that,
can I sign up? Owen, you are always welcome.
Yeah, I'm not so sure if that's exactly what he's doing. But so Dan, listen, start from wherever you want to start from, but I do have a key question, and you might want to jump in there.
Yeah.
Dad La Soul. I mean, I know the La Soul part from De La Soul, of the heart, of the soul. So where does this La Soul thing come from? How does it connect to hip hop, etc.?
3 reasons. One, it is exactly from De La Soul. So for those of you that might be aware or slightly aware, back in the 80s, there was De La Soul, there was groups like Tribe Called Quest, Leaders New School. They created the native tongues. And what they did is actively sample the weird and the wonderful to create something brand new and very positive. So that's exactly what we do. B, it's just a great pun, and we just love a pun. De La Soul in Spanish means from the soul. So in COD translation, this is from the dad. Dad La Soul.
Amazing. So I will let you jump into your presentation now. And for those watching, please do use the chat for submitting questions or thoughts or anything that you want to share as far as the work that you're engaged with. Over to you, Dan.
Lovely. So let's just Right. Got it?
Yeah.
Lovely. Can you all see that? Yeah. So, hello. Thank you very much for having me. I'm Dan Flanagan. I'm the founder of Dad La Soul. I'm a father. I'm a part-time revolutionary. And today I just want to tell you a little bit more about what we do as an organisation, where we came from, the why behind it, the story behind it, and basically demonstrate how organisations and individuals that are interested in this sort of father conversation can engage better with dads. So the title of what it's fatherhood, because it doesn't come with a rule book. You know, fatherhood is probably the most complex job that we'll ever do, but it has no instruction manuals. So as I said, I want to share with you a bit about the story of how I started, maybe inspire some of you to get together and maybe start something of your own. So who are we? Right. Dad La Soul is an award-winning social enterprise that started in 2017. Essentially started as a blog with me having a bit of a rant as a new dad, but now we are, I suppose, widely regarded as a leading non-profit in its sector and an organisation with a global social impact. A little bit of the housekeeping. Who do we work with as an organisation? What we do primarily is tackle the causes of social isolation and men's mental health provision, but we do it very differently. And I think the way what we do is quite as unique is that we can engage with fathers, especially like no other organisation. So we work with local authorities, helping them access hard to reach men and very different demographics. We work with social housing providers on community cohesion projects. We work with large corporates to help them develop their family networks. And we started working with co-working spaces and offices to help reimagine what they can do with that bricks and mortar space out of hours to increase their social impact. And then we also work with a number of other sort of national charities that want to engage dads, need to engage dads, but have found that very difficult. So an example of that is the Early Birth Association, which is a charity that helps families with critically ill children. You know, God forbid something happens to you kids, you get moved into a long-term hospital ward, the family get moved to a Ronald McDonald house. There's great family support there, but there's no space for the dads traditionally to go and unwind and have some very brutal, potentially honest conversations. So what we do is EBA support our work, and we've given them access to all our community. Who are we? So at the heart of everything that we do, essentially we're a group of mums and dads that have bonded together to change things. And what I want you to remember throughout this talk is that everything you see has been achieved by a very small group of volunteers with very limited resources. You know, we're not this big multinationals with huge, endless pots of fund. We are the part-time revolutionaries. So the mission, what do we do? We're here to orchestrate a revolution. And what I mean by that is that we offer a 360 approach to working with dads. We put on events, we create content, we're involved in advocacy with good people like yourselves, and we're also launching a range of apparel. So you look good on your play date, you have a play date to go to, you've got something to listen to, something to read that'll actually help you become a more engaged father. So let's get to the bottom dollar, right? You know, the sad news is that there's essentially a loneliness epidemic amongst men, but nobody wants to admit that they're a Billy No mates. And I think as we get older, we get into long-term relationships, we get married, and we tend to outsource our social life to our wives and partners. So as long as the kids are taken care of and we've got somewhere to go, the wives have met some friends on the school run, that's our social life, which is great. But what happens to you as an individual? You tend to kind of forget who we are as men. Bit of a trigger warning. This is also the cold hard fact of what we do. There's 84 men a week committing suicide. That's 12 every day. That's 3 times more than women. And it's because men aren't set up to talk, as we know, but they only tend to seek help in point of crisis. So what we do is offer a Trojan horse approach, I suppose. So if I was to stand up and say, hello, middle-aged men, come over here and talk about your feelings, they're going to go, no, Dan, that's an awful idea. I don't have any of those. But if I say, look, come over here and do something cool, with or without the kids, maybe make some friends, maybe have some laughs, they're going to say yes. They're getting them. So, Dad the Soul, where did it start? It actually goes back well over 40 years. This handsome chap on the right is me, and aged about 10, and that's my dad behind me. At the age of 6, my parents divorced, and due to my mum's ill health, my dad was awarded custody of myself and 3 sisters. So I grew up seeing the sort of abject lack of support that there was for Dad. Society wasn't set up for us. My dad was a very successful architect and a very business practice, but then he had 3 teenage girls and a very stroppy, confused child on his hand. Materially, we were very, very comfortable. But what I realised, now looking back, my dad was exceptionally time poor, and also he probably wasn't as maybe emotionally intelligent as we are now. He was a working class guy, made good. They just didn't talk about these the things that were going on. We just sort of got on and did it. So when I became a dad myself and I started looking for the struggles that I was facing, I realised that not much had changed in that 40 odd years. These 2 images, they're an honest view of fatherhood, no matter what social media shows. Early fatherhood was knackering. At the time when my son was born, I was commuting, so I'd leave the house very early before he was even up and around. If I was lucky, I'd get home enough to maybe read him a bedtime story, but maybe some of those times I was probably on my phone answering client emails, because that's what I saw my role as a provider. Now I was going to also trying to engage and going to mother and baby groups, but absolutely being an outsider. The questions asked, what was I doing there on a Monday morning? Didn't I have a job, or I was probably there to have an affair? And it, as time goes on, it doesn't get easier. Now I'm a co-parent of a preteen, and that comes with a whole different range of challenges that, again, society and us as a generation were potentially not always set up to have those brutally honest conversations. And men, we won't put our hand up and say we need help when we really do. So let's look at the what. Right? This is essentially what Dad LaSalle does. We give dads a kick-ass social life, and we plug them into a ready-made support network that gets them talking about stuff that they would rather ignore. Bottom line, and if they're talking, they're not dying. So what does that actually look like? Saturday mornings, traditional dad and child day. But what I found was that I'd be going to the park on my own, struggling to make conversations. I'd go to soft play and be surrounded by people on their phones, or I'd go to essentially crappy church halls that I didn't want to be in, or taking out a new mortgage to find expensive activities to keep my son engaged. with mums, traditionally, it's a lot easier for them to organise play dates. They can meet another mum in the playground. The kids get on, well, oh, great, yeah, let's exchange numbers and go and have a coffee. As a man, there's still those sort of social restrictions in place where you can't really ask a woman for a phone number and it have a completely innocent purpose. So this is our Brighton group. So looking at all those potential barriers that I encountered, I don't want to go to a church club, church hall. Yeah, I don't want to go to crappy sock play. We take over museums, sports groups, co-working spaces. This is a Plus X, which is a 6-story tech innovation centre. And what you'll see there is dads of all different ages, all different backgrounds, all different abilities, all hanging out together, 9 to 5 on a Monday to Friday. That space is full of startups and it's got AI technology. But I realised on a Saturday morning, it's empty. So I approached them and sort of gently explained, could I bring a new generation of change makers in there to play and explore? So this will give you a little bit of a vibe of what we do. Oh. I knew the tech wouldn't work.
Worked when we were having our meet. Oh gosh.
You little.
So why don't you describe
what you're missing here is all of the activities that we put together. We do beach cleans, we do stand-up comedy workshops, we'll do rap workshops, we'll go out and build supply with recycled materials. So we bring the dads and kids together on a Saturday morning. The kids can blow off some steam, the dads can have a coffee and maybe make some new friends. We've gently barred the mums. So what we found is that if the mums are there, they politely tend to take over and the dads will naturally withdraw, which you'll kind of see at most kids' birthday parties, by saying to mum, oh, have Saturday morning off, we'll take the dads and kids for you. We've built these, amazing communities. In the evenings.
Wait, Dan, can I hold there for a minute?
Sorry.
Because there's something that when you say you do like beach cleanups and you're using recycled material and so on, I've put in the chat about how the model that you're discussing here challenge the social underpinning that is masculinity. And of course, masculinity is not one thing. It's a word that means different things to different people, etc. But broadly speaking, the Mother Earth theory, Gaia, has fallen under the rubric of feminism. And so it's quite interesting that you're engaging both fathers, current fathers, and then modeling that to the next generation, that actually Mother Earth and Gaia is not the preserve of one sex. It is the preserve of all humans. And I think that that's a really powerful thing that you're doing. And so I just wanted to highlight that, because what you're describing, this men's only group, and we had a pre-chat on Friday, and I know that there's a little bit of a reticence towards the idea of safe space as a terminology. But I suppose going beyond that and thinking about what you're actually doing, it is that creating that space where these organic conversations can happen without fear of judgment. But you're also allowing masculinity and men to, I suppose the term would be police, although I don't like that word, but police itself, and sort of offer healthy challenges to generally held stereotypes and views. And I think that's really amazing. I just wanted to draw that out.
Thank you. I think what's sort of come to light is that when dads traditionally take their kids out, we'll get the, oh, you're a good boy for giving mum a day off, or you're a good babysitter. It's like, no, I'm just parenting. It's fine. Or if the kid has a tantrum, you know, kind, meaning mums will come and go, oh, let me take care of this, or struggle to change an nappy. No, we're okay to do this ourselves. We just need the space to do it. So within the groups, if a toddler has a meltdown, nobody cares. There is no judgment, rather than going, oh, you're a man, so you must be a particularly bad parent. Let's try this tech again.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't
go down.
interrupt your flow, but
No.
Important point.
Let's have a
bring out. Yes, Owen.
Yes, so
regulate as opposed to police. And that obviously, Dan, just in case you haven't seen it in the chat, where I use the term police, going back to the hip hop moniker here, the hip hop theme.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's just try it again.
So you're a Mac guy, Dan, so I can't offer you any advice whatsoever. I saw you got to share again. If you share again, we might be able to see it.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry about this, guys.
It's okay. These things happen, honestly.
Right.
In the meantime, if people who are engaged in this today can answer the question, like, what are you doing that sounds similar to what Dan is doing in terms of creating these spaces, creating the opportunities for organic conversation for fathers in a way that they feel safe and free of judgment? If you could share that in the chat, that would be really useful.
Yeah. Give this one go. Yes, no?
No, we still can't see it, Dan. Is it
okay?
If you're down at the bottom, is it not as straightforward as just share screen and then?
Yeah, that's just what I thought.
Yeah, you were doing it before. I don't know. Well, maybe we can do so maybe you can. Here we go. There we go. We got it.
Give us a wave, Dad. You're lovely.
Soul in full control over 50% of this parenting role.
All right, I'll give him a kiss, but no laughing. Here we go. Were they laughing?
People to talk to.
It was just nice to finally get outdoors and spend time with our kids, because with our everyday work, it's just been a struggle to find the time.
Yeah, it's difficult to meet up with other dads and kids, so it's a great experience.
This was our first time coming to Dad Soul. We just moved to Worthing a few weeks ago, so it was really nice to see a new place, meet new people, try out new things.
I get to spend time with you, and we are mixing with lots of other dads, lots of other kids.
really nice to have somewhere to come on a Saturday morning and to do something a little bit different.
We've just moved to Worthing. It's nice to come and meet other dads, and nice for Zaya to come and meet other kids.
So that was our play dates. What we also realised is that during the Saturday play dates, it can be hard sometimes to have those sort of brutally honest conversations when you're being used as a human climbing frame by your average 3-year-old. So what we started was meetups in the evening. So somebody just put on our group chat one night, just after the end of lockdown, does anybody fancy a pint? Because I haven't been out of ages. It's like, oh, yeah, I have. So we bring them together. So it started in a local pub about 18 months ago. It outgrew that pub quite rapidly, but also there's a lot of social barriers there. You think, you might not drink alcohol, might not want to go to a pub, certainly don't want to go to a strange pub, approach a group of people that are all laughing and joking and think that, you'll be the Billy No mates sat on the edge. So we've got some amazing partners that run some co-working spaces and have some very fancy offices. So this is our Brighton group. And then what you will see there is dads that are happily married. You'll see single dads, you'll see co-parents, you'll see stepdads, you'll see men that are struggling with IVF, dads that are grieving, dads who are generationally unemployed. So we've got dads who are multi-millionaires. We've got dads here that, English isn't their first language. And we bring them all together outside of that traditional beer and football narrative. So this is Dad the Soul. We do our play dates on a Saturday. This is our youth club in the evening. It's kind of biker growth for grown-ups, a space where you can come and hang out and actually make some friends. And it's also group therapy, but we're not going to sit around in a circle and share. But this is a place for you to put your hand up and ask for help if you want to. This is all fun and laughter, but the whole thing is about us as men having really open conversations.
Dad the Soul is an essential community. For many dads, there's a lot of feelings of anxiety and isolation, and there's so many other groups out there that cater for mums, but there's so few that offer the same opportunity for dads and their kids.
This is a very unique space, basically, a trusted space. But you feel comfortable to talk about it. You're amongst, camaraderies, and it's nice that we're all dads. We have families, and there's some values.
Dad the Soul is amazing. Focused purely around kind of men being honest, which I think is critical and maybe even long overdue.
There's so many people within our community that have really interesting stories. So the idea is that every month we'll have a different speaker up, cover a very different subject.
I loved drinking and drugging, and I'm just being honest, I absolutely loved it. Basically I used to drink too much. I'd take a bottle of sherry or something like that to bed with me. God, yeah, I'm just asleep. No, just when I wake up in the middle of the night with the rows. I was proper alcoholic. In 2015, I changed my relationship with alcohol. It took some work to get really comfortable actually in my own skin.
When did the bad times start to outweigh the good times?
I was more thirsty for drink at the end of the night than I was when I first started at the beginning of the night. My thirst got more and more, and I kind of didn't know when to stop. Once I took that first drink, and every time I drank, every time I'd be like, I'm just gonna have one. I'll have one, and then, and then before I know it, it's 4 a.m. And I'm not here to sell anything. I'm not here to everyone's journey is their journey. All I know is that I definitely know a way to stop drinking, and I definitely know that I don't need to take a drink, and I definitely know I don't need to have a drink to have fun.
It's so embedded in our society. But the idea of going for a night out and not having a beer used to absolutely terrify me. Now as I actually like it, and I can see the difference being out with people when they're drunk around me, and I don't like that.
You know, I'm addicted to staying sober, but for me it's life or death. It really is. You know, it's killer. It's a killer illness. If you think you've got a big problem, try to stop for a year. A year, which is a long time. Basically, just having the confidence to just say, I'm not drinking, and someone not go sober shaming. You know, sober shaming. It's like someone going to go on, go and have one. I have to just I have to not be a knob. That's. I have to work my hardest to stay out of resentment and anger. I have to stay out of those extreme emotions, because I used to not be able to manage my emotions without taking a drink or a drug.
Massive round of applause for Jody.
So that was a view of our evening meetups. So we bring dads from very different backgrounds together, give them a beer if they want a beer, have a cup of tea, play some VR headsets, kill some zombies, a little bit of stress therapy or board game, and then the conversations start. And it really is, over the last, say, few years, I've seen a dramatic increase in the men asking for help, almost by stepping through the door. We've got, we're based here on the South Coast, but we've got a kind of global network of dads as well that can't physically come to our space. So during, I think, lockdown, as everybody did, we started running online meetups, but it soon became apparent that Zoom just wasn't going to cut it. You were, at the time, you were working on Zoom, you were educating your kids on Zoom, having any kind of social life on Zoom. So we looked into the tech sector and the event sector to see what they were doing. So we discovered this amazing bit of technology that gives, rather than being stuck in awful little Zoom rooms with strangers, gives you the chance. So what's the best way to do it? It's almost like a virtual pub, is the best way to describe it.
And now we begin our exciting adventure of Maybe I'm just like my father. What's that coming over the hill? Hello, it's the soul. Don't you know you're talking about a revolution? We are here on a mission.
My father was famous. He was the greatest samurai in the empire.
And now we begin our exciting adventure of Maybe I'm just like my father. What's that coming over the hill? Hello, it's the soul.
So that was our online sessions. And what was, I suppose, remarkable about that is the sheer number of dads we were getting, but they're very different dads. At one point, we had dads in the States, Kenya, Germany, France taking part, interacting with complete strangers. And what we did is, through that camaraderie and that openness, then we provide pathway support. So typically men won't go and see a GP about any of their mental struggles, but we've got members of our community that are GPs, or we partner with other organisations like Mind West Sussex that will give us that expert support. So it's just like, if you're with a group of friends, you say, oh, my car's broken down. They'll say, oh, my mate Dave's a mechanic, go and see him. What we've done is almost destigmatise the need for support and to be able to access those pathways. Alongside the events, we put on a range of content. So we've got blogs, we've got podcasts, we've got radio shows, we do live broadcasts, but we have these sort of really difficult conversations in the way that men were actively engaged with. You know, I'm a 80s, 90s kid, so I came up through the lad mag generation. And it's almost like new lad has become new dad. I want to be able to know how to support my partner through breastfeeding, but I also want to know how to negotiate with a 3-year-old that won't put their bloody shoes on. But I also want to share some jokes and talk about the latest movies with my mates.
What I like, I've got into quite a good routine of dropping the kids off and going straight from school drop-off.
You go to the drop-off in Lycra?
I do go in my running kit, yes. Unlike 80% of the other people in activewear, I'm actually going to do some activity. Whereas they, full activewear, then you see them get it back into their Land Rover and drive off home to go and eat biscuits.
I did used to, when my son was really small, I have been known to do the drop-off in a wetsuit. But I'd have it folded down, so I'd have the trousers on, folded down with a T-shirt.
Right.
And I'd scoot into school. And the teachers used to take the mick, but it was the school was about 5 minutes from the seafront. So I could do the drop-off and then nip down straight and have a swim before I started work. Looking back and looking at the twig-like legs I've got, you know, it could have scarred a lot of people. So we look at the fun side of fatherhood. We also look at the serious side of fatherhood.
Well, I think the first thing is just acknowledging it to yourself, recognizing what you're going through. I didn't recognize it. I didn't allow myself to admit that parenting was very hard, very demanding, physically, mentally, and emotionally. And that combined with the pressures of career. In my case, I probably put a lot of pressure on myself to continue to be what I might have called like a Jack the Lad or a bit of a legend down the pub as well, as if I was unwilling and unable to compromise any different aspect of my life, all of which I was living at kind of in 6th gear, you know. So the first thing is understand that, you know, your life is tough. Recognize that. Don't feel guilty about it. Ignore the voices in society that say things like, oh, first world problems, you're so lucky, you know, you've got a loving family and beautiful children, and you know, people are much worse than you. Of course, in practical terms, there are people much worse than you. But what I would say to that is, you know, no socioeconomic advantage, no familial advantage, no advantage in relationships or family incubate you from being a human being. You're a human being, whoever you are and whatever your circumstances are. And you are allowed to feel exhausted, miserable, anxious, because it happens to everyone. So
that's just an example of the online broadcasts that we do. And I think they've been going probably for the last 3 years. And we work with a range of different partners and very different subjects. We've had specialists in helping men that are survivors of sexual violence. We've had organisations deal with coming to terms with the trauma of sexual abuse as a child. We did a project with St Martin's College of Art on men's view to ethical pornography, anger management, what men need to know about the menopause, all these sort of wider range conversations that men should be having, but we actually don't know how to start, and we don't want to put our hand up and ask a question for, you know, feeling stupid. But we've done it in a kind of a mixture of very deep and meaningful, but also quite fun and open and engaging ways where the dads can ask these questions. So it's kind of what we do. So the online events, the content, but let's look at the impact, because at the moment it's kind of, oh, you're just a bunch of dads having a really good time, which is, yes, that is correct. But actually there is a proven social impact to absolutely everything we do.
Brothers, sisters, one day we will be free from fighting violence. People dying in the streets when the angels from above fall down and spread their wings like doves, and we walk hand
So that's
incredible.
What we do and how we do it.
Dan, absolutely incredible, and thank you for sharing the details about what you're doing and showing us. It's interesting, the idea of impact, because I think yes, you've shared numbers in the end and that kind of stuff, but I think to me the impact is really in the testimonies that were shared, and watching one of your Dad Lost Souls talking about his struggle with alcohol, and witnessing the group around him in a supportive manner. That is true impact. And whether that was, the eyeball test might suggest that was like 30 to 35. And so the idea of supporting 11,000, that's great. But actually watching that 35 having that moment, I think that is true impact. So my first question is kind of, you've done all this stuff. What are you most proud about?
I don't know. There's so many, outside of the numbers, there's the individual success stories. There's, bottom line, there's men that are still alive. So from a personal perspective, I've shown my son, I suppose, what can be achieved if you roll up your sleeves and get stuck in. You don't have to be one of these people that just sits there and moans about the world and how bad it actually is. You can get off your backside and you can change things, and you can bring together people, because there will be people that feel exactly the same way, and you don't need a huge amount of resources or funding. That helps, obviously, but if you've got 2 hours, he's got a tenner, she's got 2 hours, tenner, put those all together in that sort of a village to raise a child mentality. So I suppose over the number of years, there's been some particularly lovely high points, but I've made some really good pals.
I'm sure you have. I'm sure you have. And that beacon that draws others towards you, I think it's really incredible, absolutely incredible. Thinking about the wider impact, what have you heard from the partners of your Dad Lost Souls in terms of the impacts that they've had from your work?
They're over the moon. So it's like some of the charities that we work for have traditionally tried to set up dad groups or dad's coffee mornings or a beer and pizza, and nobody's turned up. And they go, yeah, because it sounds like a terrible idea to me. Actually get some dads in the conversation and give us something else to do. So whether it be the VR headsets, whether it be, having a free beer because you can't afford to go to the pub. I think our social housing provider partners are really happy because we've got that project in Brighton, for example, that Tech Innovation Centre is wonderful, but it's straight across the road from one of the most socially deprived housing estates in the southeast. Traditionally, families from that estate would not have set foot in that building. We come in the conversation, it does. So, we can show these kids this latest technology or have these activities that traditionally would have been for more, educationally aware or middle-class families and stuff like that. So they get new footfall. It's great for their ESG. It's great for their B Corp reports, their community cohesion. And it's pretty low cost to actually do it. There's a lot of work. The reason it's low cost is because we survive and we thrive on volunteers. So it's their heart and their hard work. They're going, yeah, I get this. It serves a purpose for me as an individual, as a dad, but I also want to give something back, but I don't know where to start. So, well, just join the Brotherhood, man, and we're there.
Very actionable stuff. Owen has a question, and he asks, from a policy or resources perspective, you've made great progress. Could this model be replicated through social prescribing network or frameworks?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's something that we are working on. We're in the process with our team to develop the roadmap for the next couple of years and what it actually looks like. But we've been approached by organisations in Australia, Georgia State University in Atlanta. People want to model this because, and I say this proudly, our levels of engagement smash anything else that is out there, and the men just keep coming back and back and back, and they are our community, are our biggest sales force. So yeah, the idea is to build up a social franchise that can be picked up and put in a corporate, picked up and put in a housing estate in East London, or with Georgia State University. They have a lot of their students are single parents, and there's been a huge, obviously, traditional issue within the African American community in the States, where a generation has just been stolen through the privatization of prisons or the drug wars. So they're trying to counter that narrative with engaged fatherhood, and the fact that we've got this sort of hip hop basis as well. It fits in really, really nicely. Hey, here's a cool dad's group. That's really cheesy. Nobody's coming. Ta-da. But it's the dads taking ownership of this. So yeah, I think, fingers crossed, the next, especially the couple of years, we aim to have Dad Lasol in quite a lot of towns and cities throughout the UK, if not elsewhere.
Another question that I have is, and again, it's about this idea of the ripple effect. We've talked about the dads themselves, the community of dads. We talked about partners, both relational partners, but also strategic partners. What about children? What are the children who are of these fathers saying?
They love it. It is, Daddy Saturday. Because we have a range of different activities as well, so it's not always the same every week or every month. We have these different themes. So if we'll have the Lego, the soft play, crafting and stuff like that, but we'll do cooler stuff for the older kids. So we partner with Audio Active, which is a youth music charity. So they'll come in and learn to write raps or produce beats or stand-up comedy or the filmmaking workshops. It's unlike anything else that they cover. And also it's kind of nice because it gives the kids a chance to meet their Saturday friends. And then the dads will get together and meet up and go, oh, right, we're going for lunch, or I'm taking the twins swimming next week. Do you want to come? What I didn't mention is there's a whole online support network that goes alongside everybody that comes to the event. So what's happened is, you remember that 80s film, The Gremlins? When they feed them after 12, they start popping off. Yeah. So we've got dads that get up at 5:30 in the morning and go sea swimming. We've got dads that play football together, dads that go to stand-up comedy or gigs, or they're into 80s and 90s gaming. There's almost sort of very natural friendship groups being made, and I know some of the guys they're going on holiday together next year. And it's a beautiful thing. These men, otherwise, they would have been strangers. As we get older, our social bubbles constrict, and it does basically revolve around the school playground and that small group of friends, which is lovely. And, if you're in a good space, that's wonderful. But, that's where I was at previously a few years ago. Lovely friends with lovely couples, but they weren't my friends. There was nobody that I could actually put my hand up, and it was convenient because the kids always got on. Actually, I'd kind of forgotten who I was as a human being, and as a man. I wanted, we are by nature, we are tribal. We want to feel part of something. So what's really nice is with the Dad Lasol, we can bring these very different sociological or social demographics together. And it doesn't matter what your house looks like, what car you drive, what your swanky business cards does or doesn't say. You are a Soli. And that's really lovely. That's special, man.
We got 5 minutes left. Dan, if you were to run in the next general election, right, and you won, what is the first policy that you would look at in terms of reviewing and reforming that would make the UK a world leader for fathers?
Talk about putting me on the spot there, mate. Thanks for the warm up. Cheers. This needs to be attacked on so many different levels, right the way from, you know, having more male role models in the primary school system, showing children that you still can be strong at a male provider, but be emotionally intelligent and be caring. The good work you guys are doing with things like changing paternity leave, working with social services in the health sector. So when the midwife comes in, they don't just look after mum, they actually know dad's name and, you know, what's going on there. I don't think there's one magic button. This is a 360 approach, to be honest.
Well, Dan, with an answer like that, you're a politician in the making. You know.
I neatly sidestepped, I thought. Yeah, cheers.
Dan, on behalf of Future Men and everybody here today, and all those that will consume it through social media, I just want to say thank you. What I think is most striking for me is that you've managed to do this, having started in 2017, and with a few years there, with the lockdowns and COVID, where things were a little bit hectic. And you've managed to achieve all this, which is remarkable. Yeah, really, really fantastic achievement.
Well, I think it was only up to sort of this time last year when I got made redundant. I had a full-time job and a divorce as well. So,
wow.
But it genuinely is that, you know, everybody talks about having that why, that fire in your belly. So for me, it goes back to that me being that 10-year-old kid and thinking, why are things like this? Now I have the power to change things as an individual, and it's that collective responsibility that it puts a spring in my step, man.
Very clearly, very, very clearly. So our thanks to Dan and to all the work of Dad La Soul. I almost said De La Soul there. That really, yeah, you know, that 80s, 90s hip hop era was very powerful, very powerful. And just to recap, this recording will be edited and shared over YouTube and our social media channels on Future Men. It will be on the website along with the chat. And we want to encourage as much conversation around the policy landscape of fatherhood in the UK, as Future Men has that role of Secretariat support for the APPG on fatherhood. And so we have an opportunity to grab the attention of those change makers in that room. Dan, wonderful. Thank you so much again. To everybody that's joined, enjoy the rest of your day, however cold you might be. I know I'm freezing. So thank you to everyone for joining, and yeah, enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan. Great work.
Nice to meet you, Dan. Thanks.
Yeah, bye.